We're live.
Yes. All right.
We're live.
Welcome to the Relix remote session, week whatever we're at here. I don't know. Time is standing still and going really quickly at the same time, Ryan. I don't know.
What week is it, Mike? Come on.
Well, I think the last time I saw live music was March 11th. So as far as it's been from then, it's been my quarantine.
Yeah. Okay. So that's 6 weeks.
Yeah, 6 weeks.
Dang.
Yeah.
Dag nabbit. How you holding in?
I'm holding up. I mean, it's a strange time. I mean, I feel like we've all been through so many different things, like, as a community, as a music community, whether it's 9/11 and the Great Recessions, obviously other tragedies that have affected different regions, but no one just seems to know when this is going to end, which is the strange thing. It's not like, okay, like September 1st, everything's going back to normal. So that's what, for me, at least, that's what's scary.
There was an Instagram video that went around, and it was a internet comedian that was just like literally laid out all the contradictions about when you could touch food, what
Right.
math years, and it's like 3.5 minutes long, and it was amazing to have it laid out so bare, like how inconsistent the information has been about what we can actually do. Not to mention
Right.
even planning for the future. It really brought it all to bear. I was like, oh boy.
Well, I mean, it's scary. Like, 6 weeks ago, I went to see, like, the last big show. I mean, I saw Dawes when they played the Relics office, which was awesome. Shout out to them. But, the day before that, we went to the Allman Brothers reunion at the Garden. And, you see reports that came out this week that the coronavirus had been in the city since at least February. And we were, that was a sold out garden show, 20,000 people, and we were all there. But we
Right.
didn't know. I mean, everyone said it was safe as long as you didn't, share with everyone, share drinks with people, make sure you wash your hands if you go to the bathroom, all that stuff. So, it's been it's been a learning experience for all of us. But it's funny. So I've been watching a lot of these live streams. I've been watching Jimmy Fallon Tonight Show. Now I have such a better view of like where everyone lives, like all these musicians and actors, like stuff like that. I'm looking at your room here. Is this your studio? Is this your house? Where are you now?
Yeah, I didn't even think about where I was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in my studio. I have my studios in the bottom of my it's in the downstairs at my in my house in Vermont. So I just like told my kids, I was like, stay off the internet at 5 o'clock. No
Yeah.
run around upstairs. But I've been doing a live stream, and I kind of keep the door open because the kids will kind of shuffle in and the dog will shuffle in, and my wife's kind of around, which I like. But I actually closed the door for this one for some reason. I don't know why. But yeah, this is definitely part of my house. But I didn't even think about it. Usually I try and do better. I think there's like dirty clothes over there.
Well,
Whoops.
I feel like you and I have talked over the years like so much about like grassroots fandom and like fan engagement. I feel like watching people perform in their like basements and like bedrooms and stuff like that is like the ultimate level. Now, like whenever I go to a concert, I can be like, oh yeah, I can't believe that Bob Weir's living room looks exactly like that. When after all these years, you think it's something completely different.
Exactly. I mean,
Yeah.
I had been like this all happened, and we were in the middle of a tour. And we'll talk about this later, probably. But I wanted to get on the live stream thing a little bit because it's just like it seemed like something fun to do and just something to keep my brain moving. And I couldn't figure out how way to do it. Everything felt really forced. I didn't want to be
Yeah.
another like white dude with an acoustic guitar in front of a webcam, which obviously I am. But it wasn't until I saw the Jeff Tweedy one because Alex Crothers from Higher
Yeah.
Ground had been like, "Have you watched that?" And I was like, "No." And I watched like 3 minutes of it, and I was like, "This is so amazing because it's so casual, and it's just he and his wife needling each other. His kids are kind of coming in and out of it. I think his son's girlfriend's kind of in and out of it. The dog's around." I was like, "This is so just like low pressure and amazing." And just seeing Tweety sit on the couch and like bag on people and talk about it was just really beautiful. I don't know. It was really amazing. I was like, oh, that's kind of what I want to do. I want to have the spirit of that thing, you know?
Right. Right, and you've been doing this. You've been doing this web series now, like what's it, 3 or 4 weeks. You've had talk about some of the people you've had on, which I think is interesting. You've had people from like the film world, the sports world, some political people. Who are some of the guests you've had?
I mean, honestly, it wasn't even like there was a big list. My first episode was on a Friday, and on Thursday I had been texting with Taylor Hanson because he
Right.
was in a band with Adam Schlesinger. So I had texted him. Adam had just passed away, and I was texting and just checking in with Taylor, and we were talking for a while. And I was like, "Hey, you're pretty optimistic." He's a very articulate and
Yeah.
optimistic guy, and I was like, "Why don't you jump on?" So he jumped on, that next day. And then, the mayor of Pittsburgh, we were supposed to play in Pittsburgh that week. And we have this long history with the mayor of Pittsburgh, who's this really amazing dude. I really like him. I don't know him super well, but he's just kind of up for it. And he said yes. So he did it. And then, it was, and then Mark Duplass, I was talking with him about something else. You know what I mean? It's just,
Yeah.
it ends up being people I'm kind of talking to. And I was like, oh, do you want to just jump on this thing? And it's not like I'm going through management and like, I just people whose phone numbers I have basically. And I'm just like, who won't be super Debbie Downer and be somewhat articulate. That's kind of the low bar for what I'm doing with the live stream.
You might have a second career like booking a late night show like the mayor of Pittsburgh and Taylor Hanson. Like that's a great booking for ratings.
It is a good booking. I have very high expectations. Well, because this all dovetails nicely with my whole, like podcast, my like, my PBS shows that I had and stuff where I like to interview people. So it feels good. It's natural.
Well, before we hear some music, what band did Adam and Taylor Hanson have together? I feel like that's something
They
that
were called like
pulled out of.
They were called something Windows, and it was James Eha from the
Oh wow,
Pumpkins. It was talk about a random booking. There was
yeah,
4 of them, blinking windows. I think they made one record. They were all just kind of like it was one of those things. I think they were all in like a room because Eha and Schlesinger had a studio together
right.
on the west side, and I think Taylor was somehow involved. I don't remember exactly what it was, but yeah,
They all have Ken Weinstein as their publicist, as you did at that time too.
sorry, Ken.
Awesome. Well, let's hear a song right now, Ryan.
Okay, I'm gonna turn on the reverb. Yes, do you hear my reverb? That's the secret sauce. All right, I'm gonna take you out of this thing.
Okay.
Somehow, I'm gonna remove you. I'm gonna turn off your mic. Okay. She used to work in a diner. Never saw a woman look finer. I used to order just to watch her float across the floor. She grew up in a small town, never put her roots down. Daddy always kept moving, so she did too. Somewhere on a desert highway, she rides a Harley Davidson. Her long blonde hair flying in the wind. She's been running half her life. The chrome and steel she rides, colliding with the very air she breathes. The air she breathes. You know it ain't easy. You've got to hold on. She was an unknown legend in her time. Now she's dressing 2 kids, looking for a magic kiss. She gets the faraway look in her eyes. Somewhere on a desert highway, she rides a Harley Davidson. Her long blonde hair flying in the wind. She's been running half her life. The chrome and steel she rides, colliding with the very air she breathes. The air she breathes.
Brian, have you played that cover before, or is this the first time played?
I did it on one. Oh, let me turn off my reverb. I kind of like it. I've done it before, but I think I did it with the acoustic. I just learned how to hook up my electric guitar today.
Nice, nice, nice.
Every
Well,
one of these is an opportunity to learn something. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
exactly. Well, I mean, you were talking about positive outlooks, and you mentioned this before, but you guys were literally on tour when this all happened, in the middle of I don't know where, and then obviously had to cancel a tour, and everyone kind of scattered to wherever they're from or needed to go for the quarantine. What was that experience like? Was there like a moment where you guys like had a had a meeting like what, it's no longer safe? Had you been feeling kind of the Corona crisis approaching as the shows went on? What was the vibe?
Yeah, I mean, we were doing this improv tour. We brought an improv comedian buddy, Connor Ratliff, from New York, who we met at UCB, and it was we were about halfway through. Most of the shows were sold out. Connor has a podcast too. It's really great called Dead Eyes, and he when I did his podcast, and he's like, remember on the first day of rehearsal, which was like February, 3 weeks before March 12th, so like yeah, third week of February. He's like, remember you said we're not gonna finish this tour. So I guess I had kind of had my eye on it longer than most. Like I
Yeah,
was watching what was happening in China, and we started on the West Coast, and then we kind of moved in. So like as the as the virus kind of came into the States, we were ahead of it by a week. So what we weren't really in the middle of it at any point, but we were obviously we were keeping a big eye on it. And I think it was the Monday of that last week I called
yeah,
Dalton and our manager, and I was like, hey, it's starting to feel, I'm not there yet, but it's starting to feel a little bit irresponsible to do this, even though we were in like Missouri where there were no cases yet
right.
or anything. And he was like, everybody was talking all the time. And then Wednesday we played a show in St. Louis, and Thursday morning he's like, we're calling everybody to get on a flight home
Wow.
today. And it just happened like, which was kind of, this isn't like I knew I was right, but I had a feeling. I was like, nothing's going to happen, and then everything's going to happen at once, which is
Yeah,
basically what happened. So, I think we were super bummed, but I was about to be more bummed to play shows because people were starting to ask, like, is it safe to come? And no one had even canceled yet. We were a little bit ahead of the curve. I think we canceled right before, like 3 or 4 days before everybody started doing it, but not by much. So yeah, I mean, we felt safe. I definitely thought when we got home that one of us would have it because we're all, plus we're in a tour bus. There's
yeah.
12, there's 11 of us in this like tube. We're
I didn't think about
sleeping like
that. Yeah.
2 feet away from each other. We get to a city. We go to 30 different coffee places. We go to 30 different restaurants, and we all come back in our tubes. So I kind of thought that one of us would have gotten it. That wasn't the case, thankfully. But yeah, it was a real bummer. But it was like, all of this stuff, it was just like, let's just be responsible. We don't want to be an activator for anybody to get sick, and especially then we knew less, or maybe we don't. I don't know. I feel like we
Yeah.
don't even know that much about it still.
No, and that tour was like a super unique tour. I mean, I saw you guys and Connor at UCB probably about a year ago. Unfortunately, I just heard that UCB is one of the venues that's fallen victim already to coronavirus. They're not going to
Yeah,
reopen in the city, which is
yeah, I
a
read that.
bummer. But what was that tour like? Was it like a comedy set, and then you guys kind of interspersed? What
It
was?
was amazing.
Yeah,
I mean, we didn't know. We really didn't know if it was going to work or what the structure was. The first show was in San Diego, um, and Connor, the way it worked from the beginning and the way it kind of ended up was very similar. Where Connor just came out and kind of gave himself some context and said, I'm friends with Guster. We've done this thing before, and I'm not here to take away from your Guster experience. And these were pretty small venues too. I mean, the smallest ones we were playing were like, 300, and the biggest
mhm,
was in San Francisco. We played like a 1,200 seater, and we were playing about that size out in the East Coast, the ones that we got
yeah,
canceled. So it was seated, and it was just kind of interspersed. So like he would do a bit, we would make up a song based on some audience stuff, and then he would go away, and then he would jump back in. It was very fluid. We had done a tour with Jeff Garland, where he had opened up with a comedy set. We had done some music, and then there was this middle section was kind of Wild West where people could ask questions, and we would just riff off
mhm,
each other, and it felt more like that middle section of the Garland tour, but the whole for 2.5 hours.
wow, yeah,
So it was really, I mean, I felt very validated. I mean, there were some nights that were better than others, but it was just, I had never really heard of a band doing it before. And I felt really, I had really been the one that that was pushing us through. I mean, everybody was really, supportive, but I felt a lot of responsibility for it to work.
Yeah.
So, and Connor did too. So it did. Like first night, honestly, was one of the best shows. So I think once that happened, we felt like a big breath, and it's a real bummer. I mean, we'll do it again. It'll just be a thing that we do from time to time. But it was a sucky way to go out. Because we were on a roll and shows were doing well and stuff. It was fun.
Dude, there's something about the mixture of like comedy and music. I think back like the Yo Tango Hanukkah shows it every year where they have like a comedy set and the music. It just like that balance just plays really well. It elevates both the kind of improvisational experiences, if you will.
Yeah, and we've seen a precedent for that. There are tons of bands go on tour with comedians, like the
Yeah.
Yellow Tango thing, and Todd Barry, and I know Eugene, and a lot of that stuff has happened, but we hadn't really seen it integrate in this way before too. So that's why we were a little bit scared about was this going to work? Are people going to like it? Is it going to be the right energy and vibe? But I agree. I'm so turned on by. After having been in this band for almost 30 years, anything that feels
Yeah.
really frightening to us is a thing that feels like we should probably try, because that fear part is where you're going to be really is a great place to make stuff from.
Awesome. Well, let's hear another song.
All right. Let me see. I'm going to get rid of you for now. All right. Goodbye, Mike. I'm muting you. I got to turn my reverb back on. Okay. All right. And I got to get my. Okay. All right. Okay. You think I'd leave your side, baby? You know me better than that. Think you leave me down when you're down on your knees. I wouldn't do that. I'll tell you right when you're wrong. Oh, 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 oh. And if only you could see into me. Oh, when you're cold, I'll be there. Hold you tight to me. When you're on the outside, baby, and you can't get in, I will show you so much better than you know. When you're lost, you're alone, and you can't get back again, I will find you, darling. I will bring you home. And if you wanna cry, I am here to try your eyes. In no time, you'll be fine. I think I'd leave your side, baby. You know me better than that. Think I'll leave you down when you're down on your knees. I wouldn't do that. I'll tell you right when you're wrong. Oh, 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 oh. And the hole. I'll be there by your side. I have to add you to my
That's
stream.
awesome. Hey, Brian, can you talk about that song selection there? I mean, it was awesome. Yeah.
Oh,
It
of
felt
course.
very now, but I know it's not exactly now. Yeah.
It's a Sade song that
Yeah.
I oh let me take off my reverb. Although I do kind of like it. It's a Sade song. I really love that song. Uh, and it's funny because that last night of tour when we were in St. Louis, I had a friend from New York come down, and I was like, we got to find the weirdest place in St. Louis. And it was late, and St. Louis wasn't open late. And we ended up in this like trans bar downtown with like punk rock karaoke. It was the coolest place I had been in St. Louis. And I really like St. Louis and the city museums there, which is amazing. And it was karaoke night. And Brian came late and just instantly went up and got and sang in the middle of like this really and it was really inspiring. And so I sang that Sade song like and it was the biggest mix of like gender, sex, like it was a really charged, weird environment. And I sang that Sade song, and then ever since then, it's just been kind of in the ether for me. So
Yeah.
that's why I decided to do it. And I think it's a beautiful song. And I know there's that Beachwood Sparks version of it too, but I really love that song.
And that's awesome. And I feel like I mean it is such a unifying time. I've been watching the Global Citizens event, and there's various stuff from Earth Day going on, and kind of people coming together. I mean, for you as an artist, does this feel like an inspiring time to write music? Is it too heavy? Are you too busy with family stuff? Like, what does it feel like on the creative side?
Well, I got home and I was home for 2 weeks and I was reading a lot. I was spending a lot of time reading the news and trying to just sort of discern what was happening and what
Yeah.
the right move for my family should be. And school wasn't canceled yet for us here in Vermont. And so I just spent the first 2 weeks just really dug into the internet, and I had a couple ideas, and I was like, like I even called, like I texted Russo. I was like, I have this idea. Would you do it with me? And he goes, yeah. And then I couldn't really get it across the board. And then basically I saw that Tweety live stream, and I was like, okay, I need to do that. I need to not try and make this pro. I just need to be myself, like warts and all. And that's just like kind of my lane. And I need to stop reading the news. So I basically I stopped dealing with stuff. Anything that I could control, I could interface things with, and anything I couldn't control, I would let go of. So that was kind of my practice. And as soon as I did that, I started feeling really creative. So I started doing these live streams. John Wesley Harding had asked me to cover one of his songs, and I did it in a day. And like
Mm.
stuff just started coming in from the universe. Like I spec'd a couple commercials that I didn't get, but I was starting to work, and I was starting to work on some Guster music, and it's been really good since then. And then things like this, when it's like, initially this request came in, it's like Relix wants to do, and I was like, man, that's going to be so much work. And then it's like, yeah, but then I gear up for it. So it's like, I learned stuff, and I learned how to use my studio today in a new way. I've never like used my amp with that ribbon mic before. And so I'm using these kind of things as an opportunity to challenge myself and work really hard. And then also, like, my wife's home, so she can help with homeschooling, and that's been really helpful. So yeah, I feel really creative right now, oddly enough. And we live in the woods too. So like, I can go out my door with my dog, and we can just run around in the woods for a couple hours, which is really, I mean, I've never been so happy to live in Vermont, that's for sure.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. Like, I feel like 9/11 being the kind of at least for New York people, the event that this feels closest to. Obviously, it's very different, and kind of in a time warp and slow motion. But things changed. Like music after that had this dark feel. It had this detached feel. I feel like there's like an intimacy that's coming out of the creative stuff I've seen now. Whether it's watching Jimmy Fallon at home, or as you said, like some of the songs you've been writing with some of your friends and people who just a text message could create a new song or a new podcast or new idea.
Yeah, I mean, I've been thinking a lot about I've read a few articles about what to think about in the future, and I've on my like private Instagram, even yesterday, my family and I, we went for there's a Robert Frost Memorial Trail, and like we went and I was like, I know I'm gonna reminisce about this time and positively. I mean, listen, this is coming from a place of extreme privilege. Like I gotta recognize that. Like
Yeah.
I don't have to work right now in order to pay rent, and so I recognize that this isn't everybody's experience, but to speak to my own, I just like the fact that just like my wife and my two kids and my dog are here, and this is what we do every day, and we're going to make breakfast, lunch, and dinner together, and I'm not going to go out at night, and we're going to watch movies, and we're going to make stuff, and we're going to fight about screen time and math homework, and we're going to take the dog
Yeah.
out, and it's like and fight about dishes. It's just like it's really intense, but it's like it's the kind of thing as a touring musician. I talked to another dude who's like really famous, and we talked right after this happened, and he's like, dude, this is amazing. We never get to do this. We're always so busy. And then like even emotionally, my head is in other places when I'm here because I'm just like always making stuff. So like the fact that I'm here and making stuff is just allows me to be really present with people. And there's something really beautiful about that. Again, I know that this is a horrible time, but my
Yeah.
own in terms of how I'm we're kind of processing it here.
No, it's interesting to think back. I remember distinctly, like, right before, September 11th. Actually, that was right when Wetlands was closing, and I went to a bunch of those final shows, including your guys' final show there, which was just a few days before, the tragedy happened, and it was only a few blocks away. And the first time I went back and saw music after that, whether it was a week or two, I forget. It felt like, is it okay to like be back together with people, enjoy it? But I feel like at this time, people are like, okay, let's enjoy, if we can enjoy this time at home where we actually can take a pause and spend time with family and spend time on our creative paths and just hope that we could all be together soon in that sense.
Yeah, I mean, listen, everybody's kind of got a different. I just feel like it's like a Vegas, like a roulette, like a what is it called when you pull the knob and little things come up? What's that called? What are those called?
Roulette, I don't
They're
know.
not, where you
Yeah.
pull a thing and all the things go seven, seven, seven. What's that?
Oh,
Slot?
the lottery. Yeah,
No,
yeah.
that's not what it's
Yeah, the lottery ball was.
why are we bad at
Yeah,
gambling?
I don't know. I'm waiting.
And
We have a private chat here, waiting for Will to come and like give me his answer
Will, tell
here.
us what that it's
Yeah.
not a slot machine.
He did say
Uh,
the Tinted Windows is the name of the band that Taylor Hanson and Adam had, by the way.
I
So
like having a producer. Will, you're hired. Anyway, I feel like everybody's variables have come up
yeah,
differently, right? Like who's sick and who's not sick and who has a
yeah,
job and doesn't have a job and whose kids are what age they are. And so like, you know, for me, slot machine. I
yeah.
did say it
There
right.
we
Maybe I did say that. You know, I just don't I don't pass judgment on anybody's experience.
Yeah,
If someone is like really bummed out about this and just reading everything that Trump's doing and just like raging, I don't have any advice for them to be like you should do something else. It's just like everybody's experience is so unique. Like you're your in-laws, you know what I
yeah.
mean? Like in the basement. And so like you can or you can do your job kind of, but then some of your job you can't. So like I can only speak to my own experience here, and so yeah, that's why I'm trying to be really present and trying. It's been good to be really focused on what I can deal with.
No, definitely. I was talking to some friends last night about this, and like, I'm in my late 30s, and I have a 20-month-old, and as you said, I'm in my in-laws, and I could do some of my job. Some of my job is a lot harder to do. Some of it, because we knew this was going to happen. Knew that we were going to have to be quarantined for a while. I brought my work computer. It's easy to do. But if I was 10 years younger or 10 years older, I'd be having a completely different experience, even if I
Exactly.
was in the same place, which is, something that I try to be cognizant of when I'm talking to someone because people may move back in with their parents or maybe are have kids who are now miss their high school graduation or something that could have been a
Exactly.
moment. So
And every one
yeah,
of those variables has such a big impact on how
yeah,
your life is right now. So that again, that's everybody that I've talked to in the last 6 weeks. It's like everybody has a different
yeah,
version of what's happened to them.
yeah. Well, let's hear another song.
Okay, I'm gonna kick you out. I'm gonna kick you out. You're out, and I'm back in, and I'm gonna turn on my reverb again. I love it, and I'm not gonna do this. Speaking of, this is a Guster song called "Hard Times." Enter a scene that defies description. Say, open your mind and take it all inside. One click at a time. We move through fictions and send our sisters to the sacrifice. Cruel conviction. Sinister systems keep us satisfied. These are hard times. Breathing in the oxygen, holding in hard times. Breathing out the ultrasound. Things come around. Hard times, 10,000 miles of a new prescription. So open your mind and take it all inside. One pill at a time. Purest fiction. And send our sisters to the sacrifice. Cruel conviction. Sinister systems keep us satisfied. These are hard times. Breathing in oxygen, holding in hard times. Breathing out the ultrasound. Things come around. Hard times. We send our sisters. We send our sisters. We send our sisters. And then the audience goes wild. The oxygen, I'm holding it. These are hard times. I'm breathing out the ultrasound. Things come around. These are hard times. I'm breathing in the oxygen. Take it all inside. Take it all inside. Hard times.
I know that song was on the last Guster album, which is now a couple years old, but it feels strangely very present right now.
Yes, yeah. There's a couple Guster lyrics that kind of have popped out and felt resonant. There's another song that's called "Hang On" that was like kind of some of those lyrics that were like, you know, when things are hard, you
Yeah.
gotta hang on kind of vibe. And then, you know, we did a T-shirt of a lyric from one of our songs, "Come Downstairs and Say Hello," and I just wrote, "Be calm, be brave, it'll be okay," and it was like the best-selling merch item we've ever had
Yeah.
because it was felt like, you know, I was on the fan group and people were like, you know, talking about certain songs. So there is something about some of the music that feels like it's connecting in the same way that like I'm connecting with so much music right now too. Certain things I'm just like, oh, I'm not in the mood for this, or like I really want to just get stupid or whatever. You know what I mean? So obviously,
Yeah.
as the editor of a music magazine, you know how important this stuff can be.
Uh, Absolutely. Although at the same time, like, you know, because we are quarantined in a, you know, in a house with I have a 20-month-old, I'm pretty much at the whim of what he wants to listen to. Luckily, I don't know how it happened, but he's obsessed with Casey Musgraves. So that's pretty much
Ah,
all he listens to, which has been pretty awesome.
yeah, we're in a pretty heavy duty Casey
Yeah.
phase too, and you know we have all of her records, but we're real. That last one is just like I think. Oops, sorry. We have it on. We do vinyl in the house, like
Oh,
especially
nice.
when I had kids, I started buying vinyl because I just thought it'd be important and for them to see what records were, and not just like that. Just music comes from the phone, the Black Mirror. And that last record is just like it. Just
Yeah.
we play it like once a week. I'm such a fan, and my friend Daniel Tashin from the Bees is a writer and producer of that. Who we had taken. So I've known Daniel forever, and it feels a lot like when I first heard the record, I was like, this feels like a Bees record that Casey sings on, and so.
Yeah.
You should listen. You should check out some of the B. They were the Bees US, and then they were the Silver Seas. But you'll hear like he's all over that thing. It's really awesome, and it's
That's
not
awesome.
why I like it. It's just I love Casey. I love her words and her melodies are insanely great.
No, no, she's super awesome. And my son is like he's 20 months old now, and he's been listening to her for a few months. And like he didn't, as obviously doesn't have that many words, so he actually like equates like music as Casey. Like he's like, I want to hear Casey. He's like he just wants to listen to music. So I try to expand his horizons. I put in some Grateful Dead. That Casey Jones at least says this is the right name. He knows what's going on and everything.
And you just have to pinball off of Casey's. That's
Exactly.
funny, like Casey Kasem. You could do
Yeah.
Casey Kasem as a like a top
Exactly.
40
We'll go down.
thing.
It's like 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon with Casey Musgrave.
Exactly. That's
Ryan,
awesome.
I think you have a question here
Oh, I have a question. Fan
from the
question.
private chat session
Oh,
here.
private chat.
Yeah.
Jen asks, "What's the story behind Hard Times?" Okay, Jen. That's a song from our most recent record, "Look Alive," which came out last year, I think. And that song was kind of before. I think it was like in the midst of all. I think it was post-Trump stuff, and it was you know, dealing with it's pretty. I mean, some songs are kind of obscured in the lyrics, and that one feels less so. It is kind of about hard times, but it was sort of like it's. I think a lot of the stuff that I write about, if it's kind of Debbie Downer, but there's like some optimism in there. So I think that was kind of a self reminder, like in the midst of all this crazy stuff that's happening, there's like good things. We got to. If you can make a choice, let's make a choice to be good.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, and you had an anthem before you knew it. I mean, it's I mean, you mentioned this before, but Guster was working on some new music. I don't know how far you guys were before all this happened. Do you feel like that music makes sense in this era now? Is it stuff that like you guys are going to continue to work on when it all gets back together? Like, where's that?
All the way that the band usually works, 95% of the time, the music comes before the lyrics, and so actually haven't written the lyrics yet for some of this stuff. We have
Yeah,
like probably like a dozen songs, half dozen, like a dozen songs, and some like maybe half dozen are really in pretty great shape, except for most of the lyrics. So yeah, it's an interesting time. I haven't actually been able to interface with the Guster lyrics. It's been hard to kind of like it's almost too much of a blank canvas right now, which all this other stuff that I'm doing, like live streams or do cover this song or do this project here. It's like I love limitations. And so yeah, I don't know about the lyric thing yet. It's been a little bit of a tough thing to crack as creative as I'm feeling right now. It's not coming through in word stuff.
mhm,
I wrote I wrote something on an Instagram post like 3 weeks ago, and it ended up being a journal, like a diary, like a journal entry.
yeah,
And I was like, oh, okay, I'm starting to use words again in a way. So it hasn't been a muscle I've been exercising, and I don't know. I'm kind of just like, I'm just so happy to be in some kind of flow right now that I'm not forcing the lyric thing because it can also just be, it's the hardest thing for me personally to do well. I think it's a really hard thing to do well. I don't think that many people do it well. So it's a little bit of yeah, I don't know, but I'm very curious to see what is going to come out of all of this stuff. I mean, I think you're right, though. The live streams are a really nice way to check in with people. And these songs end up being kind of Debbie Downer because it's like a dude and a guitar. I hope this doesn't read that way to people, like where everything's so sad. Because I would love to, I think that was one thing I read about that one world is that everyone took it so seriously, and it's just like we got to stay together, and there's so much stuff, and there's room for that, but I think there's also room just to be silly and like it's like it's okay to have fun and to like
yeah,
send memes to your friends and like to laugh as much as possible and like be goofy and all that stuff. I think they're all welcome emotions. I think all that's to take a break from the seriousness is really good too. I'm not doing a very good job of it with my personal song selection right now, but it is something I inspire to. So maybe I'll play against that, as the lyrics for the Guster songs come out.
Well, and I think just just like comedy and music kind of heighten each other sometimes. I do think like when you have like a dark subject matter and there's humor kind of balanced with that, or in the presentation, or like up tempo music with really sad lyrics, it heightens both those elements as well. And that's something I know you've explored, and a lot of people you've covered today have as well.
Yeah, I love that. I love when there's depth to that, when it's not a happy song with happy lyrics or a sad song with sad lyrics. I love that.
So when's the next live stream that we could expect?
Hopefully Tuesday. I have tentatively lined up Mike Gordon, who Relix fans may know, and Jason Colton approved it. So uh, Mike and I are going to talk, and also the organ player for the Red Sox is this guy Josh, who seems really cool. And I watched his live stream, and he just seemed like a goofball and like smart. And so I'm going to have him on too. And I think that's going to be Tuesday around 3 Eastern.
That's awesome. Is there a connection between the Red Sox organ player? Because I think there's, and Mike, I think there is some sort of like Fish. I mean, they played there obviously a few times, but there is some sort of like, there's a video at least of one of the organ players doing some Fish songs. So.
Yeah, my dream is to put this all up on screen at the same time.
Yeah.
I'm just now figuring out how all this works,
Yeah.
and just to see what happens. Like, man, I think you're right. Like, I do have a future as a booker on late night where it's like all three of us like get three random people, like that Party for Five, what was it, that show with John Favreau, where they just put like five people in a thing? Maybe that's the future.
The real world Ryan Miller will get you now.
Exactly.
No, and you and Mike, obviously, we're both Vermont residents now, and I mean, Paige was on Lost and Gone Forever now 20 something years ago. I think you have some guests coming behind you here.
Yeah, it's my son. What's up, buddy? I'm on live. You can hang it if you want. I only have one more song to do. Yeah,
I think you have one more question from the audience, and then we can close it out with your selection here.
Can you play an impromptu song about the current situation? This isn't a good time for many people, but it's a good time for me. No, I don't know that I can, really. Dinner for Five. I got that, John Favreau. All right. I love having a producer. Yeah. You're hired, Will. Dad, you want to hang? What do you want to you can hang. I don't know. He's whispering things to me. Wait, what? Okay. All right, go on, Mike.
No, I mean, if you want, there was so much excitement right there. We had a special guest in the studio. I'm checking my baby monitor to see if my son is still sleeping. He looks like he's vacated the crib. So he looks like he's much in the other room. I don't know.
Stop picking your teeth.
Why don't we close out the musical portion with
okay, we can close out with one more. Okay, Dash, this is the only one that I'm not good at though. So you gotta like be kind of cool, because this is the only one I'm nervous about. All right, or you can stay, but I'm just nervous about this one. All right, will you close the door or let the dog in? I don't care. Do whatever you want. All right, Mike, should I bring you back in at the end?
Yeah, we'll do a little wrap up at the end. And then
all right, I'm going to remove you from the stream. I'm going to mute your mic. I'm going to turn me up. I'm going to put my reverb back on. Okay, so, well, no, I'll tell the story first. The version of this is that I've been trying to learn stuff and stay creative. So I've always wanted to learn the song God Only Knows, but it seemed like it was really hard and there was too many chords. And I looked up a YouTube video of this guy who's amazing, and I spent like 4 hours with it, and I still am not very good at it, but I didn't want to give up. So I'm probably going to mess this up, but I want to try it anyway. And you just have to hang with me. This is the spirit of live streaming, where these things are like, oh, Will, did it end up being a better balance before? Do I need to turn up my guitar or my vocal? I'll just assume it was good. Turn vocals lower. Okay, I'll turn up my guitar. So I'll turn down this. Okay, there we go. My hair. Okay. I may not always love you, as long as there are stars above you. You never need to doubt it. I'll make you so sure about it. God only knows what I'd be without you. If you should ever leave me, life would sure go on, believe me. The world would show nothing to me. So what good would living do me? God only knows what I'd be without you. God only knows what I'd be without you. If you could ever leave me, life would you go on, believe me. The world should show nothing to me. So what good would living do me? God only knows what I'd be without you. God only knows what I'd be. God only knows what I'd be without you. God only knows.
All right, that was awesome, Ryan.
I messed up a little.
It's okay. It's okay. We won't tell Brian Wilson, even though he's probably tuning in here.
Yes.
It's funny. So, I'm in my wife's, family's home, and like many people, you go back to, your childhood bedroom, and it's kind of like a museum of where you were, like the last years you left. And she has her high school CDs here, and I noticed that she did have a Beach Boys CD. So I was looking at this while you were playing.
It's a
But
good match.
somehow God only knows did not make the all-time greatest Beach Boys hits. Yeah.
That feels like somebody from the label. Just
Yeah.
that's. Is there anything from Pet Sounds on there?
I mean, Good Vibrations is that era. Would it be nice? Okay, they got sort of to that period, but God knows, unfortunately, did not make it. But
Yeah, bummers.
Oh well. But yeah, so we want to thank our friends at Flying Embers for making this happen. Ryan, obviously, tune in for your.
Wait, can we talk about Flying Embers? What's Flying Embers?
We have some awesome kombucha.
It's hard kombucha?
Yeah.
I'm so into it.
Yeah.
Do I get some for being on the show?
Ryan, you get some. Yeah.
Because here, can I make another? Can I
make a PSA if you want?
Well, hold on. Let me start.
Yeah.
Let me start with my first PSA. Is that? Oh wait, sorry. No wonder that was weird. My first PSA is like at 5 o'clock. I don't know why, but everyone was making fun of White Claw. Those spiked seltzers.
Yeah.
And I got a bunch of them at the store. Like I did one panic buy, and I was like, I'm gonna need White Claw. And now at 5 o'clock, I go to my family. I'm like, it's 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
And I have one, and that's the only drink because I never drink on the road. I can't drink alcohol when we're on the road. So I was like, oh, I'll have a White Claw at night. It's so basic, and I've been ready. So I'm ready. I'm ready for. I think I'm ready for some spiked kombucha. Maybe I'm ready to move off. So
Nice.
if Flying Embers is listening, I would be happy to try. Although my friends do have a kombucha company here in Vermont, I probably need to rep them too. But they don't do spikes, so we're good.
You're good. Yeah.
I'm happy to shill for whomever facilitated this because I never would have half learned. God only knows if it weren't for this.
It's just, if it wasn't for the quarantine, you would not be a booking agent, and you would not be making commercials for hard kombucha, right? There's positive in everything.
Exactly.
And on Tuesday, you'll be listening. You'll possibly be talking to the other MG in the jam band world besides myself, and
right.
the organist from the Red Sox, which I really can't riff more on that. Unfortunately, sports is not my strong suit. Nor yours, Ryan. Nor yours.
All right. Well, listen, thanks for inviting me on this thing. I always love talking to you. When they asked me to do it, I was like, I'll only do it if Mike talks with me because I can't fill a half hour of white dude in front of the webcam. But that 4 songs was fun. I don't know. That was fun. Hopefully that was fun for you guys.
4 songs. We got like 45 minutes here. That's
50 minutes. We did good.
That's a good.
We did. That's a real live stream. All right. Well, listen, man, I'm wishing you all the best down there in your in-laws basement, but at least you're not in New York where it could be harder. And thank you to everybody or anybody. I don't have any idea if anybody watched that, but if you are watching, thanks for listening. And I hope everybody stays safe and stays positive. And I can't wait to go and touch people again.
Well, hopefully we see you on the road sometime soon. Maybe not this year, but sometime soon, All
right. Well, it's great to talk to you, Mike.
Yep.
Thanks for everybody for listening, everyone. Okay. Talk to you later. Goodbye. Hold.
Will's going to appear. He's going to pop back here.
Hold. Oh, yeah. I could bring him back. Oh, he said hold. I'll unmute his mic. Hold. Clear. All right, I'm adding him.
Yes.
Okay. Did it go okay?
That was awesome.
Oh, good.
Fly members are happy.
I'm sure they are. That was awesome.
Yeah.